The first issue is what the Messenger, may Allah raise his rank and grant him peace, mentioned. في من بنى مسجدا يعبد الله فيه عند قبر رجل صالح. About those people who built places of worship to worship Allah in, around or near the grave of a righteous man, on top of or near, intending for that place to be designated as a place of worship. وَلَوْ صَحَّتْ نِيَّةُ الْفَاعِلِ. Even if the intention of a person was a good thing. That's very important to remember. The issue of intentions and the shartiyya of the niyyah. That the intention is a shart, it's a condition for the acceptability of an action. Let's not get lost in what some of the scholars have said about perhaps what's behind the intention of someone who does innovation. There may be a desire for good, and Allah Ta'ala will reward His servants for what they deserve. But the action, can it be acceptable to Allah Ta'ala if it is misguidance, if it is innovation? Absolutely not. He has sent us a messenger, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, to give us a clear verdict on that. And he said, what's the hadith of Aisha? من أحدث في أمرنا هذا ما ليس منه فهو رد. Whoever innovates into this affair that which is not from it, meaning it's not in accordance with the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then it is rejected. This is the verdict of Allah from the tongue of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The scholars, they say this hadith is half of ibadah. It's half of worship, meaning it represents one of two conditions that must be fulfilled for any act of worship to be accepted. And that is muwafaqat as-sunnah. It has to be in line with the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Sharia, the Islamic legislation sent to him by Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. What's the other condition that must be present? Ikhlasun niyyah. The intention must be that that action is done sincerely for the sake of Allah tabarak wa ta'ala. What's the hadith from the Arba'een that goes with this condition? The very first hadith. إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Actions are only by their intentions. وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَّا نَوَى. And a man will only have what he has intended. So whoever intends with his righteous action that is in accordance with the Sharia, the Islamic legislation, whoever intends the pleasure of Allah and having his action accepted by Allah, that deed is accepted with Allah. But whoever intends status, recognition by the people, the creation of Allah Ta'ala, whoever intends other worldly ambitions, then his action is for that. And his action will not be accepted by Allah Ta'ala, the action of worship. Even if it is devoutly in line, outwardly, with the guidance, the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's the meaning of these two being conditions, that it must be absolutely sincere for Allah alone, and along with that, it must be in conformity with the guidance of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here he says, وَلَوْ صَحَّتْ نِيَّةُ الْفَاعِلِ. Even if the niyyah of a person doing this forbidden action was a good niyyah, he only built a masjid near a grave, not to worship the grave at all. But for what reason? Just to be reminded about this righteous person often. Not to ask him for anything, not to direct any requests to him, not seeking blessings from his grave, nothing. Just to say, I love this man, and he should have a masjid, ignorantly, he should have a masjid built over his grave in honor of him, and it's from his money, maybe from his estate that he wanted a masjid built, so why not build it over his grave? وَلَوْ صَحَّتْ نِيَّةُ الْفَاعِلِ. Even if the intention of the one who did that was good, and that is something that these narrations apply to, and what the Prophet ﷺ said applies to. There are some scholars who talk about, with some words that have been misunderstood by some of the people in our era, that a person can be rewarded for an intention behind a deed that is misguided, or a deed that is unacceptable, a deed of innovation. And they've said, if the intention is good, then perhaps there'll be a reward for that deed. And they've misunderstood some words mentioned by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah ta'ala, on the topic. Those words that are connected to the desire of a person, the goal of a person overall, his love and his ambition to please Allah, that was behind all of that, that is separate from the actual action. And that's what Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and other scholars were talking about when they said perhaps there's a reward for him, meaning not in the action that's innovation, but in the love that was behind that. That is a separate thing. Not the action itself, but the love that was behind that. It's an action of the heart, and that love can be a source of reward from Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala.